Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to express my thanks to the organizers of this ManuFuture conference here in the capital of Lithuania, which is at the helm of the European Union in this semester. And a particular thanks I would like to express and extend to LINPRA, which is also a member of ORGALIM as well as of CEEMET. A few words about CEEMET, which we are building on what Adrian said, the European Employer Organization of the metal, engineering and technology-based industries. We are representing employers' federations from 23 countries, and our focus lies with European labor law, industrial employee relations, education and training, health and safety issues. Through our member organizations, we do represent some 200,000 companies, which give direct employment to 13 million employees. Of course, CEEMET too is pleased that industry is back in the focus of the national and the European agenda. Recently, in addition to what was said also here earlier today, many studies have been published about the future of manufacturing. I'm only talking about the most prominent ones of the World Economic Forum of this year and last year, or the McKinsey study. All have in common the message that there is no growth and jobs and wealth without industry. And this is also highlighted by the last month's Commission competitiveness report for the year 2013. Countries with a strong focus on an industrial base and with a strong industrial base generally have better weathered the storm of the financial and economic crisis. This has led, and this was also mentioned earlier today by Mr. Pflegel, for example, led to unbearable levels of public debts, which also, of course, have effects on the industry and then also on research, public funded research. A critical size in manufacturing is pivotal to Europe. Unfortunately, the share of manufacturing, which was also said here today, has continued to decline after a slight pickup in 2009-2010 to now 15.1%. It will be extremely challenging to achieve the very ambitious goal set in the Commission's Mission Growth Initiative to increase manufacturing share of the EU GDP to 20%. For particularly the advanced economies in Europe, this is even more challenging to increase their share in an increasingly international competition, and currently it seems that only the Baltic countries, Lithuania with well above even 20% level, Poland, Romania and Slovakia succeeded last year in increasing their share in comparison to 2011. As said before, we are aware about the drivers, the challenges, but also the opportunities for manufacturing. But this awareness needs to be followed by action. This was also referred to by Mr. van Bose and highlighted also by Dr. Sommer. So for this, it needs, according to CEEMET, first and foremost, the right framework conditions, which have to be stable and reliable to do business at the national as well as at the European level. Saying this, and also saying this in the context of industrial policy, it has to be kept in mind, though, that A, politicians and companies do not always follow the same goals, and B, that policy makers are not always and not necessarily successful in picking winners. Industrial policy, R&D, therefore, should be considered very carefully and stay technology neutral. Europe needs a well-functioning manufacturing ecosystem. This ranges from affordable clean energy, access to raw materials, infrastructure, finance and investment, all the topics that have been mentioned before, including as well flexible labor markets. We should develop in Europe our strengths in world-class knowledge, research and development and innovation, and also should do this on the basis of our well-developed SME structure. In the end, Europe needs European manufacturers with efficient, market-relevant innovation, and directly related to this is the question of the availability of well-trained talent. Innovation means growth, and innovation can only be achieved with an interconnected R&D ecosystem and a rightly skilled workforce at all levels. Here today, most, except Professor who spoke before me, most of the focus was lying with engineers, but I would like to emphasize that it's considering that it's all the workers' levels, including at the shop floor, have to be considered. As we have to also learn today, we see a greater integration of processes, and this also in combination with another aspect, which is the aging of the workforce, particularly the M&T industry, which might not be also too attractive for young persons, young people. Currently, there is much talk about the importance of industry for Europe. That is true. The CEEMET member organizations welcome that in 2012 the European Commission communication called Rethinking Education correctly pins down the problems that are found in education and training systems around Europe, including not being able to provide the right skills, a lack of cooperation that was also underlined iterately here by my predecessors or my speakers before, with industry and employers, and the absence of a lifelong learning culture. One could also say, or talk about, or use the term of a different mindset that should be prevailing in Europe and be created in Europe. Together with the economic crisis, in some countries, these problems, of course, in combination with other factors, have resulted in a situation where it is virtually impossible for young people to find work, while at the same time, some companies in Europe face difficulties in finding skilled workers to recruit. CEEMET welcomes the Commission's renewed efforts to support national efforts to speed up and catalyze education reform. I would like to underline here that the main responsibility to become active in that respect, education and training, vocational education and training, lies with the national, regional, and as well the company level. So we welcome these renewed efforts, but we underline the need that there should be more and more proper involvement of industry and industry representatives. Against this background, CEEMET priorities for changes that are needed include notably, first, improving responsiveness and impact on education. Firstly, the learners should make value and add value, whatever they do should be a primary goal in education and training. It is important to emphasize excellence in VET and the crucial importance of consulting sectoral industry. The quality of education in general, with the criteria for quality including impact of education in terms of labor market potential, also have to be taken into consideration. And in that context, CEEMET is very much in favor of and welcomes also the setting up in 2012 of the so-called Business VET Forum. This is a promising start, a promising initiative. Furthermore, there should be a cooperation between industry, a facilitation of the cooperation between industry and practice-oriented higher education. We also talk about, in this respect, about governance, that more industry representatives should be involved in higher education institutions. One example from Finland is the Aalto University, but also the Wolverhampton University in the West Midlands, as I learned from Anthea McIntyre, MEP from the UK, from the West Midlands. Wolverhampton University has as a motto that it's the university of opportunities, of innovation and opportunities. And it's underlining this and proving this by the fact that 90% of the graduates, according to Mrs. McIntyre, and I checked that at the website of the Wolverhampton University, 90% of the graduates find a job or go on further studies, thanks to a good and improved cooperation with industry and SMEs in the local area. Accreditation and funding models need to be renewed, taking into account what I referred to before, quality and impact. We should also support partnerships to renew the engineering qualifications, which should become more learning outcomes based. Furthermore, networking with students and providing work-based learning throughout their studies is pivotal and crucial. Under the topic of improving the responsiveness, long-term university-industry cooperation and the permeability between vocational education and training and higher education should be also fostered. Always, however, looking at the impact of education and to make a so-called reality check. Facilitating cooperation between SMEs and universities of applied sciences, regional, local networks have to be highlighted here as well, and a prominent reason for why the Swiss economy, why Switzerland ranks again first in the 2013-2014 Global Competitiveness Ranking of the World Economic Forum is the fact that they have an extremely well-functioning cooperation between universities and business, and here in particular SMEs. Furthermore, we have to enhance innovation in education, making the knowledge triangle that was referred to also earlier a reality between research, innovation and education. CEEMET welcomes the kick on added value manufacturing as part of the first wave kicks, which CEEMET has been asking for repeatedly. This kick represents a real chance to enhance innovation and also educate a highly skilled workforce with practical experience of industry and R&D. Another important aspect that was also mentioned is the local dimension of within the global networks to reach sustainable competitiveness. This needs to be rooted in knowledge and innovation-intensive regions which require greater diversity of educational and research opportunities and perspectives. When integrating different programs and policies into one new single framework, it is important as well to identify synergies and to ensure a good coordination between the different policy initiatives, including education policy. CEEMET has also carried out some, with the support of members, with the support of companies, particularly at national level, has carried out recently 2 studies. One is about improving the cooperation and coordination between industry and providers of initial vocational education and training, as well as another study that was dedicated to the issue of continuous education and training that's mainly taking place at the company level, which is about upgrading and skilling workers and employees. To conclude, the key responsibility for tackling skills shortages lies with the different stakeholders at national level. With regard to the European Union level, the key messages from our side would be that the importance of strategic partnerships and coordination between stakeholders involved in at the appropriate levels for making the knowledge triangle work. And this also accounts, this, let's say, principle of coordination goes as well for the different directorates general at the European Commission when it comes to industrial policy, where we see that many of them are involved in somewhat defining different aspects of industrial policy. And here we consider that a better coordination would help. Furthermore, at a European level, we would support the dissemination of good national examples, including as well the aspect of training for SMEs, and here pooling different resources and sources, for example, in training centers which are, for example, as well, very prominent in Belgium, but also in other European countries, in Portugal. However, a recent CEDEFOP study, which is a European agency dealing with, education and training, also found out that cooperation mainly takes place in the northern countries. However, in the south, they could not identify a single functioning, in that case it was a cluster, in that area of education and training. Furthermore, the mobility within the European Union has to be increased, and also a better functioning, a more attractive immigration policy should be put in place for talents. Finally, I would say that we need to foster R&D networking between universities and do this together with industry. And industry as well has to be prepared to do so and to engage in this and to invest in this. Thank you very much.